What do you do with the chatter in your head? What does that chatter sound like? It's interesting when we come in uncertain times or we come into challenges, that chatter gets louder. And what I mean by that chatter is the thoughts that we have. We have serving thoughts and we have unserving thoughts. And it's really interesting when you start looking at the chatter and you start listening to the chatter to find out, is this helping me get where I want to go? Is this helping me be a better person? And you start to develop, as you start to really pay attention to those thoughts, you really start to develop, what is it that I'm telling myself? Who am I becoming? See, when I was 20 years old, I had a 1-year-old son. I got pregnant at 18, had him at 19, didn't go to college. I was selling cars. And at the time, there was a gentleman named Tony. Never forget Tony. And he said, Kristen, you really should look into getting into something different. And I said, I that would be great, but I don't have any college education. I don't know what I'm going to do. And here in sales, I can, make enough money to provide for my son. And he said, kept encouraging me. And finally, he set up an interview with a manager for a mortgage company. His name was Ron. I'll never forget Ron. And I sat down with him and said, look, Kristen, I'm going to be honest with you. You don't have the training that you need to come into the sales position, but you make too much money to start in the lower position. So I really don't know how it would be a good transition for you, because we would have to start you in the lower transition. And I remember even before going in to see Ron, the chatter in my head. And I remember just, here I am with a 1-year-old child, barely graduated high school, didn't have college education, and didn't really know anything about mortgage. I remember my mom buying her first house when I was in 6th grade, and finally we were able to stay in an area. So for me, it meant security, and I could connect with that. But I didn't know, how can I advise people on mortgages when I'm 20 years old? You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You can't learn. And so all this chatter going on in my head. And I persisted because my desire to provide for my son and create a better life, and I was a single mom at the time, was more important than the fear, more important than the false beliefs, more important than the doubt. So I was able to connect with that and go to the meeting. The entire time in the meeting, I'm hearing, you're not going to be able to do it. Yet I'm making myself, say, I know that I'm telling him, I know that I can do this. I'll work hard. I'm dedicated. And so he ended up giving me the position as a processor, and I started as a processor. Within 3 months, I outperformed the other processors. I was doing more volume that they did, and so I was making more money. I maxed out their bonus comp. The whole time thinking the chatter, you're an imposter. You're not really doing well, and having these negative thoughts, the entire time. But I would continue to look at a picture of my son, and looking at that picture of my son kept me going. Even though I had the chatter, I kept looking at the picture and it moved me forward. Now, I decided that, and they ended up promoting me to a manager over the support staff. And mind you, I'm young. So I'm thinking, you're the youngest person and you're trying to manage. And so I have this chatter in my head. I continue to do the actions and act as if I want to be that person that they're seeing me as, and the whole time feeling like an imposter with the chatter. I ended up deciding that I wanted to go into the origination side, the sales side. After that, I saw their paychecks and realized, hey, I can make a lot more money doing that position. I want to go that direction. Now, mind you, super introverted at the time, didn't like talking to people, didn't feel I was good with words, didn't feel I was good enough, didn't feel I was smart enough. All the chatter, right? All these beliefs that I had started coming up. And I think that's really when I started to pay attention. I started to, look at self-development books. I started learning. I started taking in all the knowledge and really kind of sitting back and like, whoa, I felt like I didn't have any control over myself, because all this chatter would be there. I'm like, I don't want this chatter. Go away. The reality is the chatter is going to be there until you recognize it and address it. You identify it. You see the truth in it, you rewrite it, and you condition a new behavior. But I was just starting to understand a little bit, on this journey as I continued. So I get into sales, and mind you, again, I'm a woman, I'm young, I have no database, I don't enjoy going, at the time I didn't enjoy talking to people, I didn't feel I was good enough, I had no confidence. And I kept looking at the picture of my now 2 kids. So I have 2 kids, at the time I had my son, and then I had 2 kids. So I'm looking at the picture and I'm thinking, okay, they always say, what's your why? What's your why? So I kept focusing on my why, my kids. I want my kids to be able to go to college, have a solid foundation. I want them to be taken care of. So I'm still hearing the chatter. So I'm still dealing with the chatter and living from a suffering state because I feel like I'm an imposter because I still have this chatter even though I'm doing different actions. So I'm taking the actions and I'm building my career. I've been in mortgage for almost 17 years now, or almost over 17 years now. And I'm a top producer, and I have a good book of business. And, I really have built a career that I now feel more confident about with the chatter. And the reason I say this is it's so important along this journey. That's the steps that I've learned, and I continue to learn each day, is that you're always going to have the chatter. It's, your subconscious, what you've grown up with, what you've heard, what you've, the beliefs that you've developed have come into play. And I spent many years suffering from that chatter. And there's still days that I wake up and I have the chatter, and I have to stop, recognize the chatter, and learn that there's a new way. And there's different ways that I go about doing this. And I really wanted to jump on here and share it because I think that conditioning this is the most important way to lead to success. Over the years, these are the steps, the strategies that I've learned, that I've developed, that I've relearned, that I've redeveloped, and that I really pay attention to. You kind of go on this roller coaster. A lot of people are in lives of roller coaster, and we all have these ups and downs. And if you don't know how to deal with the downs to get back up, you're always going to feel stuck. You're always going to feel that you're in a position that you can't move forward. And so I really wanted to jump on here and talk about what are the strategies to where you can end up feeling that you're healthy, and that you're at peace, and that you're energized with your life. And what is it that you can do to take control? Because I think that's really where we get stuck, is that we feel that we have no control. And when you feel like you have no control, you're allowing someone else or something else to take control. So you need to understand that there's several things that you can do to establish a new behavior. Now, one that I always want to start with is, first, you got to identify what are the false beliefs, what are the doubts. And that's the chatter, that's the negative chatter. So you start to get quiet and you start to really listen to your thoughts. So you start just recognizing, you're just identifying, what's going on? What am I telling myself? How am I treating myself? And because what we tell ourselves, our thoughts over and over again become a belief. That's how you create a belief, is just a thought that's repeated over and over and over again. So when we talk about affirmations, that's why they say if you create an affirmation, which is I am smart, I am successful, I'm resourceful, something that you do, that's truth, but you keep saying over and over again. That's why you think it, you say it, and it's an affirmation because you're affirming a new belief. You're conditioning a new belief because you're repeating it over and over again. So for me, one that I've always struggled with and still continue to struggle with sometimes is I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. So you have the chatter, you recognize, okay, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. And then you really got to identify, where did this come from? Where did this first come up in my life? And really got to sit down and think, okay, where did this stem from? For me, it was school. I didn't learn very well in school. And I think that I had, I have focusing issues when reading and things that weren't figured out until later on in life. And so I didn't do really well. So I started to develop, because I saw the grade, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't smart enough. And as you develop that over and over in time, you start having this belief that you can't do things because you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. So first you got to identify what you're telling yourself. I'm not good enough. Where did it come from? Well, during, when I was a kid, I didn't feel that I was good enough because I didn't do good in school. I didn't get good grades. And so you develop that pattern, and then you stop and ask, is it true? Is it really true? Like 100% true? Because here's the thing. If it's 90% true, it's not true. It's not 100% true that's the truth. So is it 100% true that I'm not good enough? Well, I have things that I've done. I've had kids. So no, I was good enough. I was able to have, my kids, or, I was able to stay in this career for as long as I did, or I was able to write a good paper. The small things that you've overcome, the small things that you've done, you start building this book of, no, I did all of these things. So I was good enough, and I'm good enough to do whatever it is that I want to do. The difference is I'm good enough to do whatever it is that I want to do. Because if you're trying to do something that you don't want to do, it's probably not that you're not, it's not that you're not good enough. It's that you don't care enough. It's not a priority. So you got to recondition. Okay, so the truth is I'm not good enough. The truth is that I am good enough for the things that I want to do and focus my attention to. And then you got to rewrite it. So then you take it and say, okay, instead of I'm not good enough, I rewrote mine to I am good enough and I am resourceful to figure anything out. I am resourceful and can figure anything out. So now when something comes up and I start having that doubt, I remind myself, okay, I'm resourceful. I can figure anything out. So as soon as I have that thought of I'm not good enough, I go straight to my rewrite, my new belief. I'm resourceful and I can figure anything out that I want to. And as you continue to do that, you're conditioning. And so now when you have that belief, because here's the thing, those negative beliefs, they don't 100% go away. They usually come back up, especially, during the challenging hard times. They're going to come back up. The difference is now you recognize it, identified it, and you have a rewrite. So it's going to become as you rewrite it and it becomes a new belief, it's going to be attached. So you're going to have, I'm not good enough come up, but then all of a sudden, no, I am good enough. I'm resourceful. I can figure out anything that I want to figure out. So you're rewriting this belief. Now you got to condition that in order to have this become the new rewrite. And that's usually the part that people miss. You may hear like a video and say, I've heard this before. I got to understand that I have false beliefs and doubts and I got to overcome them. Well, I spent many of those years doing that. So I spent many years, but I didn't condition it to become a new behavior, a new habit, and a new belief. So although I still had those and I knew, right, I had it in my mind, I hadn't connected it into a new belief in my heart that I really believed and understood it. So here's how you got to condition. So you understand now, here's my negative belief, and you got to do every single one. So here's my negative belief, here's the truth, rewrite. Here's my new belief. I am resourceful and I can figure out anything that I put my mind to. New belief. How do you condition it? You got to put it everywhere. You got to become obsessed with this being your new belief. And my kids have made fun of me. My husband has made fun of me. But here's what you do. So it's your affirmation, right? It's your new belief. So now I put, I'm resourceful and I can figure out anything I put my mind to. I put it on my mirror in my bathroom. I put it on my desk at work. I put it as an alarm on my phone. I put it in my calendar. I put it in my car where I see it when I get in my car. Your brain needs to see it and hear it and all be connected before it becomes a belief. And you can't just see it. You got to say it out loud because words become an imprint and become a picture and become imagery, become vision, and then it becomes your reality. So when you see that, you got to say, okay, I'm resourceful and I can figure out anything that I put my mind to. And you say it every time you see it, but you have to take it one step further. And this is where it really gets people. You could say it. It's like someone that says, and I love this because this is truth in business. They always tell you, pick a number that you want to make. So for me, for many years, it was, I want to make $100,000. So that would be my affirmation. I want to make $100,000. Or I am making $100,000. I'm making $100,000. I'm making $100,000. And I said it. But I didn't feel it. I didn't feel what that $100,000 would do. I didn't feel what it would do, what it would provide. I didn't dig deep and connect it inside. And the way that you create a new belief is by seeing it, saying it, feeling it, and seeing as if it's already been accomplished. So you're going to say, I'm resourceful and I could figure out anything that I put my mind to. And then you just take a minute and you think about all the times that you've been resourceful. And if you're like, well, I've never been resourceful, dig deep. I'm sure you can find something. If you can't, just envision it as it's going to feel when you do. So if you haven't gotten to the point where you can recognize that you've had that in the past, just start visioning, okay, and close your eyes and just think, okay, if I am in this position, figure you're already there, whatever this belief is, and you start feeling how you're going to feel. So feel how you're going to feel and really take it in deep so that you're aligning and you're feeling it. And you're going to do that every single time. And then also movement. So you don't want to be slunched over and you don't want to be feeling down and, I'm resourceful and I could figure out anything I put my mind to. No, you want to stand up strong and you want to put your back up and your shoulders up and you want to say, I'm resourceful and I can figure out anything that I put my mind to and really feel it. You got to feel it and you got to stand strong. And I want you to go and look at, trying to think of her name, Cuddy. I can't think of her first name. Cuddy, Amy Cuddy. I don't know. Look up Cuddy TED Talk power poses. And what you want to do is go watch that because the way that we move, get some music going if you need to, so you feel good, and some positive, inspiring music, and get the music going when you say it too, and say, I'm resourceful and I can put my mind to anything that I want to accomplish. And you stand up strong, and I know it seems crazy. I remember when I first started doing this too, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Okay, but I don't really feel that way, right? I'm not feeling that way. It's kind of like the thing where they say smile on your way to work so that you feel happier. It works. It works. And I was probably the biggest, I don't believe it. I would be very, no. And it would be really awkward, and people would be kind of driving by, and looking at you like, oh my God, that girl's so happy. But guess what? It made them infectious and happy too. It works. So you got to put it all into it. So Tony Robbins, and I'm a certified coach. I went through the Robbins Madonna's training coaching. And so a lot of the stuff that I follow too is Tony Robbins, but it works. And so he talks about the triad. And so he talks about where you're focusing, what you're focusing on, the language that you have in your mind and what you speak, and then your physiology, how you move. You have to have all of those in order to start establishing, your new belief and your new way of life. And so you really gotta really focus on this when you're doing it. And that's what's missing, is that you can have an affirmation and say affirmations all day long, but if you're not connecting and you're not really focusing on how that feels, how it smells, how it tastes, every aspect that you can, you just want to be in that moment of what you do want. Let go of anything that you don't want. Focus only on what you're wanting. And then you also want to have the language, your thoughts. So you want to make sure as negative thoughts come in that you're releasing them and replace it with a positive thought. Don't shame yourself. Don't guilt yourself about how you're feeling it. Just kind of see it. No, I see you're there, but that's not the reality. Here's the true reality. Rewrite, and then condition. And in your body, you want to do it in a strong, positive manner. So if you do all of those things, and they say, you hear people say 21 and 66 days. I encourage you to do it for the 66 days. They say 21 days becomes a habit. I say 60, it's proven science. If you do it for 66 days, at the point of 66 days, you don't even realize that you're continuing to do it. It's just kind of part of your life. Put it on your calendar. Today is day 1. And have a reminder where you, every single day, that you just stand and you say your affirmation, and you feel it and you believe it. And you'll start realizing that now when you have that thought, I'm not good enough, you automatically are going to go to the rewrite. But you have to commit to doing all those things, because here's the thing. I do not want you to turn this off and go back to the same reality that you had. Now, we're always going to have false doubts and limiting beliefs. It is what it is. That's just part of conditioning. They're going to come up. Be prepared that they're never going to go away. You're always going to have them come up. Now, the difference is they come, they go. They come, they go. You become way better at identifying them, having your rewrite, and then they continue on, so that you can be the powerful person that you're meant to be, that you can focus on the positive and optimistic sides of everything that you need to. I'm not just, focus on positivity. Yes, you need to focus on positivity, but sometimes you have to just be optimistic. Hey, this sucks, but I know it's going to get better. It's terrible, but I know it's going to get better. I'm going to get through it. So just focus on how can I be optimistic, during these times, and condition these patterns so that it becomes better. I have a worksheet I'm happy to provide to you, kind of a framework that I follow. And there's other steps that you want to really focus on, which is taking out the negativity in your life too, to really help support you to have the positive, optimistic beliefs that you're trying to create. So really just your environment, what you watch, your what you're putting into your mind all day long. Really start paying attention. Am I putting positivity and optimisticness in my life, or is there a lot of negative? And get rid of the negative. And then get accountability partner. Find someone else. We all are working through, false doubts and limiting beliefs. Your friends, rely on them. Let them be your accountability partner too. And when you're having a hard time, say, hey, here's the framework. Let's work together so we can really encourage each other. When we can see that there's kind of that false doubt coming up, you can really help your friend too and say, hey, okay, step back. Let's, identify what's the truth, rewrite, condition. Hope this was helpful for you. If you want a copy of the worksheet, just instant message me, and I'll be more than happy to send over the worksheet to you if you want that. It's the same framework. Gives you a little bit better kind of, I know for me, I always like worksheets, what do I need to do? What do I need to work on so that it's in front of me and tangible? So I just want to be here to serve. I want to be here to help. I spent many years coming from a state of suffering and not knowing, how does this all fit together? How can I navigate this? Being a single mom, a career mom where I was working, 50 plus hours a work week. And I just really needed something to help keep me focused on, okay, how do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? And how do I create that? So, Kristen Cooper, hope you have a great day. Let me know if I can help be support to you. Message me if you want the worksheet. More than happy to share.